everybody, it's your main man. It's your Ace Boone Coon in Black History, Anthony Brogdon, coming at you once again, my friends. And I got a heavyweight lady on the channel today. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Oh man, I don't know how I found her, but check it out, everybody. She one of them PhD people. Wrote that dissertation and they said, hey, the first time out is good enough. We ain't got to read no more. We know you on point. They ain't even had to read her paper. How about that? She that much of an expert. They just said here, PhD stamp right on there. If you don't come back to school no more, you did too much. She like,
don't believe it.
Oh, I'm so excited to have her on the channel. We are jamming here at Strong Inspirations. We up to 280 videos and adding new ones every week. Like this one. Hit the subscribe button on Strong Inspirations. It don't cost no money. It don't ask no information. All it does in layman's terms is let me know you like me, because I like you and I'm going to keep doing this. I know you're watching me. Like this video for sure. Watch. She going to put something on you that you didn't know and say it eloquently. Yes, sir. She going to say it eloquently. Use them big words that we don't understand, but gonna put it in the right context. Watch out. Hit the notifications bell, because we at Strong Inspirations, like I tell you, I'm putting up videos all the time, and I don't want to have a specific time where I do it. I ain't gonna say it every Thursday or something. Like, I put one up in the middle of the night. I can't sleep. I figure a way to get to sleep is to share some Black history. So watch it, and you want to be the first to do it, and watch them. Also, tell somebody about Strong Inspiration. Don't keep it to yourself. You sitting there, you watching them, you got the link. Just share the link with people. Take it to your classroom. You know, tell your kids to watch it, and then for them to share. Let this thing flow. We are, and a lot of times we will say, Black people don't tell the history. Don't get the history out. It's no more of that can be said. Now that we have Strong Inspirations, now that I got people coming on the channel like the lady that is coming on today, you can't say that no more. And I let them do the talking. Everybody, did you watch the video? Let me give you a couple of them right quick. Did you watch the video of the guy who talks about Blacks in auto racing and how we dominated that sport? Watch that video. Did you watch the video where I did with the guy who's the historian at the Kentucky Derby? And I didn't know this, but the first prominent big winning jockeys were Black guys. And they got a whole exhibit on them at the Kentucky Derby. Watch that video. Did you see the one of the Black guy out of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, who had his own streetcar company back in the 1800s, early 1900s, and a horse race track in Pine Bluff, Arkansas? Watch that video. Have you seen the video of the guy who says he's the historian for the Masonic Prince Hall Mason Orbiter? I know one of them anyway, and he's on the channel and he tells all of the greatness of Prince Hall Masonry. Watch that video. Oh, we got them coming at you left and right. Do this. I'm a filmmaker, everybody, and I'm this serious about it. Took me 2 years out of my life, almost 3 years, for me to produce this documentary called Business in the Black, The Rise of Black Business in America. I took it to 40 cities on my own dime. I had a good time when I got there. You know how I roll, everybody. But nonetheless, when it was showtimes and the lights went dark, it was time to get serious. And I wanted people to hear this information. My movie is streaming on Amazon. Read my book, Black Business Book, over 200 facts, amazing stuff. And I know you don't know all of them. I got names in here that I know very few people know of them. There was a guy in Kansas who was the potato king. He was rich with what he did with his crops of potatoes. Julius Groves is his name. Had you heard of him? He's in my book. I talk about slaves who went to college. I name names, I name the schools and everything else. My book is, and my movie, the movie streaming on Amazon, the book, get you a copy and go to, it's on Amazon too, but go to my website, businessintheblack.net. Do you know I'm having my own Black History Festival? Yes, I'm not little no more. I want 1,000 people from around the country to show up in Kansas City, Kansas. I got the Host Hotel right downtown. The hotel got a swimming pool. We're gonna have a little party there one night, nice quiet thing and what have you. Those who want to get in the water, let's get in the water, let's jam. We're gonna have a party in a barn on Friday. Saturday, we're gonna take tours of this historic area called Quindaro, where the slaves escaped to. We're gonna be right on the grass where they walked back in the 1850s and 60s and stuff like that. All that again is on my website, businessintheblack.net. You hear me use this term strong a lot, and I'm gonna keep saying it because I love the word strong, which stands for strength, tenacity, resilience, and a sense of oneness, nobility, and grace. And watch out, my friends, that is my introduction to my guest today. She's a strong lady. Come on, sister, introduce yourself. Let's get it on. I think you're so happy for being on the channel.
Thank you so much, Brother Brogdon. And I have to say that it's an honor to be with such a warrior as yourself, such a lover and believer in our culture and our people. And you just have no idea how much I've looked forward to talking with you.
Yes.
It's being about our the business of our people.
Yes.
Lifting our people. It's an honor, sir.
Thank you. It's mine. And hold on, give us your name. Give us your name.
So my name is Kalita Nichols Fairfax. I'm based out of Hampton, Virginia, and I'm a professor at Norfolk State University, the Commonwealth of Virginia's largest state HBCU.
I love it. Let me ask you a couple questions. Are you from that area?
I am a native Richmonder, born and raised in Richmond, and I've been at NSU for almost 23 years.
Okay, I love it. Is that where your family was on the plantation in Richmond, or do you know?
Yes, well, my mother is a native of Henrico County. Henrico surrounds the city of Richmond on 3 sides. So, and she's the family genealogist, and so we can trace on both sides of her family, my grandparents, well into the 1800s, one side, 1700s, of people who were enslaved either in Henrico County or in Albemarle, Nelson County. My father, the late Dr. Paul Nichols, he was a dean of the School of Theology at Virginia Union University, a professor there. He was born and raised in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And his father, my grandfather, George Nichols, was from Muscle Shoals, Alabama. So I can scroll down to the deep South on my father's side. So that's my lineage. Of course, you know, Africa is in all of us, and we can't go too much further back because of the ARFA, the horrors of the enslavement period. But we know that we are the ancient original people on the planet.
Yes, right. That's right. Now, let me ask you this: in terms of, because your family got some greatness in it. I hear that. Your father was a PhD or medical doctor.
He was an EDD, and serving as dean of the School of Theology.
I love it.
Now known as the Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Theology. I grew up on that campus of Virginia Union University, and he was a product of that campus. My mother finished Virginia State University, so I was always on an HBCU campus.
Yeah.
Always there to witness the work of scholars and community leaders. Community, and that had a great deal to do with my decision to go to Howard University, where actually my godparents met and married and were products of Howard. So I was going to an HBCU.
I love it. Let me ask you this. Do you know where somebody in your family had the wherewithal to say, okay, education is our answer. We're going to go to school? Because for your father and them to go to school back in them days, that was an accomplishment, understandably.
No doubt.
there's a lady on the channel he's a guy on the channel who says his great grandmother was married to a guy who really just was a sharecropper and didn't kind of want more out of life. Let's say he probably did, but that was his plight. She left him and went with a guy who was a business owner and who said, hey, now we're going to change the script. Was there any story like that? Can you pinpoint who said, okay, we're not going to let slavery define us. We're going to shoot for higher heights. Do you know who that is?
I don't. Educate me.
I'm asking you, in your family.
Well, in my family, my understanding, of course, from both my parents is that one generation, who may have been denied the ability to go to school, the right to go to school, the resources to go to school, made sure that that next generation had.
I love it. There you go.
So that was on both sides. That was that's the mantra. So, my grandparents didn't have the opportunity to really finish formal education, but
really,
that absolutely happened for my parents because of the work and the sacrifice of my grandparents. My grandmother was at Virginia State for a year during the Great Depression, but my great grandparents could not. And so growing up with those narratives is not necessarily that you want to get the piece of paper. It is the intellectual and cultural, philosophical development that education should have with the survival thrust that you give back to the community. And I think sometimes we miss that today. It's not about a piece of paper. It's not about the individual salary. It is about what you do with that intellectual development to advance your people today.
That's right.
We're missing that.
I love it. And so you saw, as you just alluded, all this brilliance of these people at these HBCUs. That what does that do for you? I know it makes you say that's my plight, and that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. But when you see that and you see the disparity of what HBCUs offer to the white institutions, can you give us a little insight of what that difference might be?
Yeah, I thank you so much for that question, because oftentimes when we talk about our culture, when we talk about history, we miss talking about people. We miss we don't focus. I have a saying: keep the focus on the Africans. When we talk about 1619, we tend not to keep the focus on the Africans. We more so talk about racism, white oppression, but we miss. And this is a fault that we need to correct. We miss keeping the focus on culture, keeping the focus on our traditions. So with regards to HBCUs, certainly we all know that HBCUs exist because of the legacy of segregation and white supremacy in that believing and promulgating a belief that Black people were inferior. But HBCUs not only were created, again, to educate people, but were created to be the bastions of intellectual thought.
I love it.
And to also serve as the intellectual scientists in the community in whatever discipline, again, in order to advance the community. HBCUs should be cognizant and aware that the mission is to develop the next class of warriors, the next class of people who are trained to attend to the needs, economic, political, social, cultural, medical, environmental needs of the community. And we don't pay attention to that like we should. And I think so HBCUs serve as a spiritual master. When we talk about anti-Blackness, it's really anti-spirit, it's anti-cultural.
I love it.
And HBCUs are supposed to also develop that strong spiritual connection that we should have to the divine in order for us to be able to continue that resistance tradition and not allow those anti-Black messages pervade our spirit, and even get into the institutions in terms of how it functions, how people are treated, the environment, the processes of HBCUs.
Let me ask you this. Now, okay, I'm gonna take liberties here and say, okay, I know you got all A's in grade school, you got all A's in high school, so on and so forth. Let's say for the sake of saying, there were white institutions that wanted you to come there. I can imagine, or you knew of them, you know, University of Richmond, whatever. What would you, what difference, and you just alluded to it, have Black institutions provided that white institutions thought that they were doing better? Do you, I mean, I don't know. Do you think you still got the very good education compared to some of those, the Virginia unions and some of the other smaller ones compared to the white institutions?
You know, one of the important aspects of when you are educated at an HBCU is the fact that you don't have to deal with an environment that wants to question your very human existence.
I love it. There you go.
So I didn't have to have that struggle.
Yes.
I was with you. My husband went to Virginia Tech. He's a product of Virginia Tech. And there were experiences that he had.
I love it, right.
Where, you know, his existence was questioned, and he was an electrical engineer major. So I didn't have to have that fight. Another thing about HBCUs is the socialization that occurs. So again, you're not just getting the education, but it is the socialization of who you are as a person of African descent and what that means and how you apply that in your craft in order to move not only yourself forward, but to move the community forward into a greater state of being.
Yes.
And to take those tools that you're given intellectually, academically, practically, and apply it to advancing community. So those were the benchmarks of my evolution.
I love it.
Student at Howard. And of course, you know, there's an HBCU family. So it happens at other HBCUs. We work very hard to do that at Norfolk State University.
Yes.
We're a proud faculty member. And I just don't think that message gets out to the
I
community.
love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Now Richmond, growing up in Richmond had a whole bunch of Black history in Richmond. And Richmond was like what, the heart of the Confederacy to some extent.
To the total extent. You know, so growing up in Richmond, born and raised in Richmond, in that what is called post-segregated era that I came up in, you were acutely aware of the history of Richmond because of the Confederate monuments. The monument is what we called it. You knew what that district represented, and you also knew when you walked in that district, when you drove through that district, if you had to have anything to do with that district, you knew very much that you weren't always welcome there, or that you were there to provide a function for those who live there. And we also know that that district was politically heavy with regards to state government, even locality government.
Yeah.
We also knew, though, that those strong Black enclaves or strong Black communities in Richmond were there again because they stood firm in the resistance tradition. And so growing up in Richmond in the 70s and 80s, you know, I witnessed, you know, the first Black councilman elected to city council. You know, I witnessed the early Black school board members. You know, I witnessed the crusade for voters, you know, making sure that our voting rights would not be diluted and that the very best candidates would be chosen by the community in order to represent us.
I love it.
Also in school boards. So you know, and I witnessed the partnership that Virginia Union University leaders had with ministers and business leaders and civic leaders and teachers and social workers and community activists. Mm-hmm. Synergy, witnessing that synergy had a profound impact. And my parents were always very involved in that struggle.
Yes.
And my mother's family having the long history that it had with those enclaves, those all Black enclaves in Henrico County, having witnessing that and having access to that rich history had a profound impact upon my development.
What is the Black neighborhood of Richmond and the white neighborhood? Where did you not try to go, knowing that's the white spot? Where was that? What's that called? Whatever.
Yeah, so the Black neighborhoods would include the Churchill neighborhood.
Okay.
Or the different what we call them parks in North Side. So you know, I grew up. My family had a home. Still has that home in Washington Park, historic Washington Park. There's historic Providence Park, and then I had friends who moved into what would become the Black Highland Park. You know, those
Okay.
parks that where we live, where Black people live. You had some enclaves in Southside. For example, oh gosh, names are escaping me. But there were several smaller enclaves in South Richmond. And then, of course, some of the historic neighborhoods in Henrico County, Zion,
Okay.
Westwood,
Okay.
Brooklyn,
Okay.
uh,
I got you.
Clarkson. So understanding where the strong, Randolph is another enclave in the city of Richmond. So understanding where Black people lived and the strong communities that existed, again, you just felt so connected. Now you knew where the white communities were.
Yeah.
Again, I mentioned the Monument District. There's Cary Street in the Cary District where, you know, whites live. There's Navy Hill.
Okay.
Where whites lived, certain parts in South Richmond. You just, Gettle Park,
Okay.
you know, Sherwood Park. You just,
Okay.
and Richmond was segregated.
Okay. Let me ask you this.
And
Does
still
Richmond,
segregated.
and we're gonna get to the story in particular about the book, what have you. Does Richmond have a white guy like a Bull Connor? You know, out of Birmingham, does Richmond have Birmingham type stories, the water hoses, and I know that the Black only. Can you recall any of that? If not in your lifetime, hearing the story?
So here's the difference, slight difference between Virginia and, for example, Alabama, Mississippi.
Okay.
I offer this analogy to our brothers and sisters. Virginia is Alabama in a suit, with a suit on. So unlike the more southern states, now understand Virginia is still very much a southern state. People
Yeah.
how purple it is. Virginia is still very much a red state.
Yeah.
So we may not have had someone like Bull Connor, but there were people in place who knew how to manipulate power relationships in order to maintain decision-making, resources,
Yeah.
power structure.
I got you.
It may not have been one person like Bull Connor, but there
Yeah.
were other people who simply knew how to massage it so that it doesn't look as violent, but it is
really?
violent.
Yeah. So now, as you have gone on and love Black history like you do, you teach it. What was there a ha moment for you that says this is going to be my career path? And then how did you choose the specific topics that you emphasize in your book or otherwise?
So, you know, I have been, I've had a career in community development for a long time. So I'm on faculty in the School of Social Work, but I'm an African-American study scholar. I'm an Africana studies person and housed in social work. And because my work involves studying community development, studying the history of what we did to safeguard community, to heal from brokenness that, you know, America continues to promulgate. I found that work rewarding. Well, you've got to study history, which means you got to study your people,
Okay.
you know, and what works.
And
really understanding and studying the history of Virginia as a microcosm of the rest of the country provided me with that opportunity to look deeper into the human condition as it relates to Black folk. I once had a former dean tell me, you know, what you do in Fairfax isn't social work. So in other words, what she was saying is, if you're not a part of the social service apparatus, the social service industry, you can't be serious about social work. Well, what she was missing, and that was a sitting dean.
Yeah.
And so what that told me and what she's missing is, let's just disregard history, that people working to elevate Black folk should disregard history and work within the confines of what other people have defined to be this thing called, uh, 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 speaking truth to power,
Yeah,
praxis in order
yeah,
to change. I reject that.
I'm sure.
So my calling is to not only study history and culture, but then to find ways to apply that information in a very practical way. If it's in historic preservation, if it's in attending to making sure that people understand the historical relevance of certain landscapes, if it's participating in the historic state highway markers, which Virginia does well, if it's ensuring that there are more identified Black historic districts, which needs to happen. That's a form of healing. That's a form of coming together and recognizing and making sure that in public memory, we understand what those spaces have meant in our resistance tradition. And then helping people to understand it's not just about historic justice. It's got to be connected, married to political and economic justice. It's
I
all,
got you.
so it's not just symbolism and performance, but then there's got to be real practical community development, people development approaches from our cultural center.
I got you.
And that's my calling.
Now you've written a book.
I edited a book called The African Experience in Colonial Virginia, came out 2021, McFarland Publishing. And it was an outgrowth, sir, from my role in the 2019 state and city of Hampton recognition of the landing of African people, August 1619 at Point Comfort, present day Hampton. I know that we were taught in school that African people landed at Jamestown.
Right.
That's not true.
I know. I got a lady on the channel. She said that there's a little island or something like that outside of, and some of them stop there first.
So check this.
Yeah.
I want to put a caveat here.
Yes.
We got to be careful when we talk about 1619 because we should never use the term the first landing of African people because it dilutes the presence of African people in the 1500s.
That's right.
In Florida, and it also dilutes the presence of African countries prior to the invasion of Europeans who were seafaring. Who, in Mali, Mali was, had a seafaring culture, and they were explorers, and in Ghana, and so I just think we got to be careful.
I got you.
Think that African people entered the quote unquote new world as conquered people or as subservient to the Europeans. So I want to put that caveat there. But I will offer that 1619 is relevant in that there had been, unlike Florida, there had been the creation of a colony, which would become a part of the quote unquote 13 colonies.
Right.
Then birth America. So the entrance of African people in colonized Virginia,
right,
is the moment where we see the development of a settler colony of the Europeans colonizing Native people, indigenous people, creating what would become America. When those persons, and John Rolfe chronicled, he witnessed the disembarkment of African people from the ship White Lion at Port Comfort, present day Hampton. Port Comfort is where the Fort Monroe National Monument is located in the city of Hampton. And they were traded for victuals. They were traded for food. So here, this tells us how African people were viewed, just as commodities, just as laborers, as workers. And then they were dispersed throughout the Virginia colony. So what is important, the point I'm making is, we don't find a situation in history where African people all disembarked in Jamestown, which is up near Williamsburg. That wasn't the case. They disembarked in Hampton off the ship White Lion in 1619. And then there was a second ship called Treasurer, where disembarked. And in fact, there were African people who were working along in different plantations and settlements after 1619. So we were dispersed in the Virginia colony. And I think it's important also to point out, sir, that there was an African family at Point Comfort working for William Tucker, who was the commandant
Okay.
of Point Comfort, which was like a lookout post.
Okay.
And the African's male name was Anthony. The woman's name was Isabella. They had a child that was baptized around 1624 named William. So here we have an African family in this plantation capitalistic structure that the world had never seen before, but it would come to see it.
Yes.
Socialized civilization. And we've got this African family, and we don't know what really happens to them, but they're there. In 1619, 1620, the muster 1624 shows this. And then we have a woman named Angelo, who was on the ship Treasurer, who ends up working in a plantation near Jamestown. So here we find these African people contributing. We don't know much about them. We know that they were from Angola, from kingdoms in present day Angola, the kingdoms of Ngando, Katamba. And I think it's important to note that the way in which they lived is similar to today. Can you imagine Angelo is by herself, made to work. She can't, she doesn't have her family, her culture.
Yeah, sure. So
we have to, I think, look deeper and closer into these experiences, identify our ancestors, and see the nuances and connections. We've got Anthony and Isabella with their child William working in the home of this William Tucker in present-day Hampton. And understand, here is the first family, if you will, African family in this environment, in this Virginia colony. And think about family life today.
Yeah, I got you. I love it.
So these are connections.
Yeah.
You can find meaning behind.
Let me ask you this. So what, as y'all have found that information, what has happened in history, in the telling of history? Because I did interview somebody and they said that the people in Georgetown had to do something with the historical markers, maybe to take them down, to say that we weren't the first. Are there things happening that are giving you all more credit for this now?
Well, there's a lot happening. So there was a marker in Jamestown, which once read that Africans landed, quote unquote, landed there, arrived there. It had to be replaced. And there is a marker at the Fort Monroe National Monument that showcases not only the 1619 landing as witnessed by John Rawl, which he chronicled in his diary, but that they landed from a ship White Lion.
Right.
Anthony and Isabella are named, and their child William are named on the marker. And I think that's important. Yes. But I think, though, what is missing, and I co-chaired the City of Hampton 2019 Commemorative Commission, and at that time, we were tasked with creating educational programming, building awareness, ensuring that people would get that history. But we don't see that reflected as much in public school curricula.
Okay.
As I believe it should be. And then there's this weird sense that in 2019, Brother Brogdon, the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, of course, had its state commemorative commission, but they wanted to bill 1619 as the start and evolution of democracy, which I philosophically disagreed with, because it was really the beginning of formalized enslavement.
Oh, no question. Yeah, that's not democracy. Yeah.
And racial capitalism. So their willingness to engage in revisionist history and to push this narrative that despite the suffering, pain, the genocide, the criminal activity of global kidnapping of African people, that it was this birth of this quote unquote glorious democracy in and of itself was problematic.
Yeah, right.
Just, it's emblematic of, of, of people not wanting to be honest about what happened
Right.
Indigenous people and African people, and what continues to happen.
I've also come to realize, you can speak on this, that you are on the organization of the, you know the name of it. I'm gonna edit this part, but the organization, and you all do these historical markers, and
yes,
also the lady who was the city councilwoman. I just saw this last night. That might be like a mentor of yours or something like that. The organization that you're under.
So in 2016, I was appointed to the State Board of Historic Resources.
Yes.
Yes. So I have the great fortune to serve on this board. And we are under the Department of Historic Resources, Commonwealth of Virginia. We are the board which approves the state highway markers.
Yes.
Easements, the historic districts, along with the State Review Board. And it's meaningful work, it's impactful work, because it provides us with an opportunity to apply our intellectual knowledge in a very practical, meaningful way, because those way markers are meant to not glorify people, not honor people, but to educate the public about historical narratives. It's important work. And what we have found is that over the years since I've served on the board, there's been an increase in state highway markers reflecting our culture, our history. And I can't tell you how, though, when you go to a state highway marker program, I cannot tell you the joy that you experience when people finally feel that a historic narrative that has been obscured is resurrected and placed on a marker so people can learn what happened in that space or who from that space. An example I'll give you is Dorothy Height.
Okay.
Height, people don't really know this, was born in Richmond.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in South Richmond. And so I think 2018, a state highway marker was commemorated about the contributions of Dorothy Height. And when she was 5 years old, her family migrated to Rankin, Pennsylvania. And so that people generally don't know that she's from Richmond. But I can't tell you, hundreds of people packed the historic First Baptist Church of South Richmond to engage in honoring the mother of the civil rights movement. And, she was a former past national president of Delta Sigma Theta. The Deltas were in the house.
Yeah.
And it was just, and the fact that community could formally embrace the fact that they birthed someone like a Dorothy Height.
Yeah, I love it.
The pride is just extraordinary. And because of that, we see new economic cooperatives emanating within the community. We see a revitalization of the library there. I just can't tell you. And that really is how you should apply community development in a historical and cultural way. Yeah.
Is there, have you ever, are there historical markers to, let's say, where someone was lynched? What would be your take on identifying those spots where lynchings happen or other travesties of that note?
Yeah, so thank you for that. So we all know that the Equal Justice Initiative, National Initiative, have been engaged in their own marker program that the public knows what happened where a particular lynching took place. In the state of Virginia, we began to commemorate lynchings. In Harrisonburg, a woman was lynched. In Charles City County, Isaac Brandon was lynched. And these lynches took place in 1890s.
Yeah.
In 1951, 7 Black men in Martinsville, Virginia, were executed by the state based on what else do we know? All Black men want to rape white women.
Yeah, right. It's always a white woman.
Always a white woman. So, which is a manifestation of white supremacy.
Yeah.
So that marker will be commemorated this year. Will be dedicated this year. Another gentleman was lynched, Thomas Washington, in Essex County. So Virginia is finally, the Commonwealth of Virginia is finally recognizing that lynching too occurred in the state with devastating consequences for families. Again, when we talk about lynching, we talk about the act of lynching, but we don't discuss the economic, spiritual, political consequences that families and communities experience. You have families who become bereft of businesses. They are exiled. They're forced to flee because of the fear of their lives. Communities become even more targeted, stigmatized, disenfranchised. It has reverberated for generations. And this is what I mean about keeping the focus on us, because that's healing that we need to attend to. Collectively, that is what Black people really need to begin to start doing.
Yeah, I love it. I got a lady on the channel. They lynched, and so she believes her great grandfather, because he never showed back up again. And the thing she says is he had 2 small kids, a young wife who just was completely devastated that the breadwinner was not coming back, and they had no clue of whatever happened to him. But he was, in one town. He had to go back to his hometown, which he fled from, to go to his father's funeral, and they never saw him again.
Listen, either that or he was picked up and made to work on a chain gang. The horror of it all has not necessarily been dealt with in a way that then makes us think differently about our survival thrust, about the work that we need to do, the healing that needs to come forth. So whereas we are strong people, in many ways, there's a brokenness there that we collectively need to attend to in order for us to be healed and do the very important work, the people work within our communities. There's no time for shucking and jiving.
Yeah, I love it.
The time is now for us to develop ourselves collectively in our communities. And that's what history should do for us.
You might have alluded to this, but are you immune to the feelings of the devastation? At some point, do you say, this is my job? And because it doesn't make you cry at night hearing those stories, how do you get past that?
I think it's important that we see our calling in life as a divine calling, and not just what we do within an institution. People miss that. So you may have a job because we gotta earn a living, but the job is so that you can have the sustenance to survive. But the real work is divine work. And so you've got to be clear that your work is about how your people benefit in whatever discipline and capacity you're in. The outcome should be who's benefiting from the work, who's growing, who's developing, who's advancing. And we miss those connections because we live in such a culture where it's all about either the job or the salary.
Yeah, sure.
I struggle when I see people when they get either a raise or a job, then they want to say, I'm my ancestors' wildest dreams. Really? You think our ancestors only practice individual culture? Then I don't think you know our ancestors. Our ancestors would expect us to develop and advance our people.
I love it.
To practice a deep spiritual sense of being, to not cave to the material and celebrity culture. That's
getting heavy on us.
Impacts our sensibilities in ways that are unnatural and are very materialistic. Our ancestors would expect us to attend to the needs and the development spiritually, culturally, philosophically of our people in many ways. So because I think we become so divorced from community, I think we're moving into a very dangerous point.
Yeah.
Where we don't believe in one another. We don't believe in the goodness, and we don't believe that we need each other in order to survive.
Let me ask you this: as we kind of come to a close almost, do you get pushback from Black people? Do you get pushback from white people?
Because my work focuses on the community, and because I am so happy and glad that I'm at an HBCU, my interface with many people in other communities is not as heightened. The pushback that I may receive within our own community is that people don't understand our culture as people of African descent because they've not studied it. They've not made it a part. Amilcar Cabral made a point. When your culture is different from that of the oppressor, you ready. We're not quite ready because anytime our culture mirrors and mimics artifacts, ways of the dominant culture, the culture in power,
I got you.
We see less and less of ourselves. So the pushback is that I receive, sir, is from people who don't value, embrace, understand our culture, and understand the collective survival thrust for us to move forward, and who don't want to be honest about the developmental needs. And when I use the term developmental needs, I'm not suggesting that there's anything.
Yeah, sure.
I'm saying that there has to be cultural, spiritual, philosophical development.
Yes.
To be a part of any and everything, regardless of what you do in your work. There should be a active developmental thrust in your work. And we are missing that. And that's the pushback that
I got you. Now, again, I didn't get it right, but you were the chairman of the board of a foundation.
So I'm president of the Barrett Peak Heritage Foundation.
That's it.
An African-American foundation based in Hampton, founded by my mentor, Dr. Mary Christian, who
what I was looking at.
Who was the first Black delegate to represent my district, the district in Hampton, to the General Assembly construction. So what we are about is we are about preserving African-American Civil War era cemeteries. We are about restoring the Federation of Colored Women's Clubs headquarters in Hampton, which was founded in 1907. And we're about moving forward to creating rituals and educational initiatives, again, to develop our young people. I so enjoy that work.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
It's meaningful work, man.
Now, how do people get copies of your book? Do you have a website, that kind of thing?
I'm working on a website. Look, I don't think I'm all that yet.
Okay.
I don't have a website, but if folks can go to McFarland Publishing.
Okay.
Check out the African Experience in Colonial Virginia. It's a reader. It's a reader. So it really takes the reader through a theological discussion by legendary Dr. James Forbes. There are certain historical pieces in there, especially about women. And also there's a piece by Dr. LaGarrett King who talks about, Black people were pioneers. We were pioneers of the country.
Oh, no question.
I hope folk will pick it up.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to do that. I thank you so much for coming on the channel. We went deep, everybody. Did you tell that? We went deep on them. And I think the essence of it is through your background, your education and your readings and your research and your own personal influence, you decided, I'm gonna teach this and I'm gonna teach it right. I'm gonna let people hear these stories that I have come to know so that they can be inspired at the end of the day. Because if you know that Black people are of such royalty, such skill set, make you feel a little bit better. You and I mean, I'm talking about me and everybody else. And that's a beautiful thing. I love it. Everybody, you know what I'm saying? Hit the subscribe button on the channel. And if you don't subscribe now, I'm going to keep giving you more information. Hit the like button on this video because I know the sister told you some things. She said some things. She named some names that you didn't know. Hit the notification bell. Tell somebody about Strong Inspirations. Check out her book. We're going to put it in the description how you can get the book. And we're going to talk to her about the website thing. That's easy. And we're going to make sure so everybody can get that book because I'm sure it's a very good read.
Let me just say
get
this.
that book.
It's
And
people
to
like
you,
you.
I'm sorry.
Can I just say that that
Please.
your work is important work in our struggle. You know, we still are in struggle. We still are in struggle. And your work to create this content, to educate our folks and to remind our people of who we are is very important
There
work.
you go.
Salute you, sir.
Thank you.
As an elder, what you're doing is you're making sure that we leave a trail for our people to view content and to be reminded, to go back in that DNA, that public memory, to be reminded of what we need to be about. And this is about our Father's business. This is about the business of our God.
I love it.
Spiritual principle being. And I just want to just applaud you, sir.
Ooh, boy, you're making me feel better. Man, I'm on fire. Oh my God, you can come on anytime you want to come on, because I know we didn't cover all you know in the time we got here. So check it out, everybody. And so I say to you with this, and I mean this with all sincerity, I want you to stay strong, stay safe, stay on your grind. I love what you have done from when you've been doing it, from the day you started doing it to where you are today.
It means so much.
You own to something.
Thank you so much.
People happy when they see you come because they know you're gonna tell it right.
I hope so.
And keep it there.
I'm gonna tell you.
And you're gonna do it anyway. In that town. Thank you for coming on the channel. I appreciate it. We're gonna put all that in the description. We're gonna talk again very soon. Everybody, with that, I'll say bye-bye. We out.